Today, I wanted to go over a couple portfolio ideas, and I also wanted to go over some stuff that's a little irrelevant when it comes to the financial world, but I think having a little bit of diversity in your skill sets is a good idea considering the economy almost collapsed two times or felt like some sort of revolutionary thing was going to happen, or it felt a little eerie. We had the coronavirus, and then right after that, we had, well, not even right after it, kind of back to back, we had the civil rights movement of some sort, or whatever name you want to attribute to that thing that happened in the past couple weeks or a month. So let's just dive into this. The first idea I wanted to get across was enough cash to last you 3 to 6 months without any income. So some people say 6 months, but I think that's too much cash. Personally, myself, I would rather hold 3 months of cash and then have a bunch of food prepared, kind of stocked up so then I don't have to go to the grocery store. And I like to have all my necessities. My shoes already bought, so I don't need new shoes. I like to keep up on that kind of stuff. If you keep up on that kind of stuff, you won't need 6 months of income. If you're someone that always has like an empty fridge and old worn out shoes, and sometimes I let my shoes go a little worn out and a little too long, but if you're one of those people that you really need to buy shoes but you just keep putting it off because you don't want to go do it, and you don't want to go to the grocery store because you don't want to go do it. I myself have those feelings every now and then, but it's best just to stay disciplined and ahead of the game. Sometimes people also let their credit cards kind of stack up a little too high. I like to stay ahead of the game and not totally have all my credit cards paid off, but I don't like to see them super high. Another idea I wanted to get across was gold and silver. This is something that I've been investing in on and off. Now, gold has kind of shot up recently in the past 5 years, but I still think it's a good investment. I think that, it has the idea behind it that it can't go bankrupt. Stocks can go bankrupt, whereas gold, as long as there's no thieves around or nobody knows where it's at, you should be fine. It can't even be burned down either. So even if you have it, let's say in your house in a secret location, you could really put it anywhere, honestly, but most people probably have it in their house, in your house, and it's not even, you don't even have to put it really in a fireproof safe. If it's just gold, I guess it will melt, but it could melt, I guess, to the floor, which would not be any good. But technically, you don't have to put it in a fireproof safe because if it melts, you still have the gold value to it. Silver, that's a good investment in itself. It's used for a lot of things. Same with gold. Both of those are not only used for collecting with coins, but they're used in other industries as well. Matter of fact, back in the day, people used to use silver to put in milk. I guess there was some kind of idea behind it that it kills bacteria or bacteria sticks to it of some sort. Another idea I wanted to get across is have a house and a car. Now, some people under the whole fire movement that's going on, where they try to retire early, they don't have a car, so it saves them money on insurance and gas and just buying a car and a car loan. That makes sense. I could see their point of view, but for me, I like to have a car. It saves me time and I can drive to work and then use my time in other places. So it's kind of a matter of perspective of what you want, mixture of what you want with reason. But that's one route some people take. Now, with the house, I have a house. I kind of like the space. Again, this is a matter of perspective. Other people say that you should just rent. It's up to you as the individual. I bought my house though on the idea that A, I wanted more room, and then B, eventually it will get paid off. In 10 years it'll get paid off, and then I don't have to worry about a loan or a mortgage or rent or anything like that. Whereas other people, they use house hacking. So I could see that perspective, although the problem with house hacking is you potentially have to kick somebody out. If you're like in an apartment that you own and they know that you're the owner, that could be bad. But most people won't go that route, but that could happen. So that's one potential bad outcome of house hacking. But again, it's up to perspective, whatever perspective you have. A lot of people made a lot of money doing that or saved a lot of money. They just take the extra money and then they invest it somewhere. The fourth idea I want to get across is have broad knowledge on many different disciplines. So the reason why I say that, that's not only for financial reasons, right? When you're investing, you got to have a lot of knowledge. You got to be kind of a jack of all trades to a certain extent, right? You got to have some knowledge in, I mean, you don't have to, I guess, but I don't see how it would be a bad thing to have knowledge in some tech companies and have knowledge in some insurance companies and have a broad knowledge of the world around you. But even outside of finance and economics, economics is especially a broad discipline type thing where you need multiple different disciplines and multiple different knowledge in many different industries. But even outside of the financial world and economic world, you still would need to have knowledge on for safety reasons. I think that today we should probably be talking about this, but safety reasons like, boxing and being able to run and there's some people out there that they just spend all their time making money and focusing on money, not that there's anything wrong with that, that they kind of let themselves go and they don't focus on other things. And it can get bad out there sometimes. So having some knowledge of maybe a little bit of psychology and other such things can not only play a role in economics and finance, but into your day to day interactions with humans. And when it comes to self defense, boxing and psychology are kind of intertwined. Now, when it comes to like mixed martial arts, well, you could say mixed martial arts and psychology are intertwined when it comes to self defense. But when it comes to mixed martial arts, the only thing you got to worry about is just mixed martial arts. Whereas, like when you're arguing with someone on the streets, psychology kind of plays a role. So, first off, if it's getting a little heated, the first thing to do is make sure you're not an arm's length. That'd be the obvious thing. But for some reason, people don't understand that kind of stuff. And then, second off, another thing to point out is when someone's going to attack you, a pre attack indicator, there's many of them, but one of them is if they're right or left handed. If they're right handed, they'll have their left leg forward and they'll be kind of tilted to you or sideways. You'll be horizontal, right? Looking at them. Whereas they will be kind of more up and down and a little tilted. They'll have their right leg back and their left leg forward, and their jabbing arm will be their left, and then their right arm. Because I've seen a lot of sucker punches, and what happens is their right arm will kind of come over and hit you in most instances. A jab can be pretty effective too, but a really good sucker punch comes a little more from a little back, kind of cocked back a little bit of some sort. And then another pre attack indicator is when they kind of look away. When they look down and they look away. That is sometimes a pre attack indicator, and I've seen that a couple times. And I think this stuff is kind of important to go over in your head and possibly even practice outside of your job and things like that, just due to the fact that we're possibly going to defund the police. And in that instance, you really don't have an option but, to use your own body to your advantage in that kind of a scenario when there's no police around. The last thing I wanted to go over is physical assets, guns, MREs, medical supplies, etc. There's a lot of prepper channels out there. I like watching a lot of them. I think they give pretty good advice. And the reason why I think it's important is due to many systemic risks that could occur. It's hard to imagine this stuff happening on U.S. soil, but under the right circumstances, I think it could gradually happen, potentially. You get the right people in office and the right political movements, and being a perpetrator is surprisingly pretty easy in this world, no matter what timeline you have. I mean, you look at history is just a bunch of perpetrators, essentially. But let's take, for instance, the Holodomor and the Kulak. Kulak. Google that. They were well off peasants. And what the Soviet Union envisioned was a utopia where everybody had the same amount of income and the same amount of assets and things of that nature. We were all equal in that kind of a utopian society. So what they had to do was they had to take over their property by force, and that led to the starvation of, I've heard 3.9 million Ukrainians, and the higher numbers go all the way to 12 million. And that doesn't include the birth defects after all that happened. So many people starved, and then they had birth defects after, the people that managed to survive. A lot of people fled, Some people fought to the death. And really, in that kind of scenario, when the government's involved, probably the best thing to do would be to flee, in all honesty. So pack up your MREs and leave, basically. But in other scenarios where buildings shut down and pandemics happen, that's where physical assets come in play, like guns and gardens and medical supplies. So I want to leave everyone with this quote. It's a Chinese proverb. It is better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.